Okay, what's going on, everybody? We're here, we're live, and we are actually on time. Round of applause to me for actually being on time. So, if you can see and hear me clearly, please drop a one in the live chat, and then we can get today's stream started. And as usual, while I'm waiting for the ones to come in, if you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button. That is one of the most important, if not the most important thing you can do for me on this channel when you see my videos that help so that this video will be able to permeate throughout the YouTube algorithm, therefore pushing this video out to those who are interested in this type of content. And it also helps to ensure that subscribers of the channel actually get their notifications. Secondly, if you've been cloud watching this channel for quite some time now but haven't committed to subscribing yet, please hit that subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you'll be notified whenever I release a new video. And lastly, please make sure you share this video out on your social media platforms as well. Not just to simply let people know that I'm live and so that people can see this video if they haven't, but it also has the same effect within the YouTube algorithm. So now I see the ones are starting to come in. So let's get today's stream started. And the title of today's show is Brandon Johnson Ignores Black Chicago's Demand to End Sanctuary Status, right? He ignores it. He completely dismisses it. And we're going to get into that today, right? So let's jump right into that. And an interesting turn of events as it pertains to Brandon Johnson, right? Brandon Johnson has finally, for once, addressed the Black community in Chicago directly. At least this is the first time that I've ever heard him speak this direct to the needs of the Black community and speak to them directly. Now, he doesn't offer up any actual solutions, or he doesn't tell you what he's going to do for Black Chicago, but you can tell that the pressure is starting to mount on him, and he's starting to feel the pressure and the weight of the criticisms coming from Black Chicago and coming from those of us like myself in the media who are, giving it to him and holding him accountable and putting it to light that you are simply just another Black Democratic Party politician who plays a Democratic Party game of enforcing the benign neglect policy on Black America, in which you never commit to doing anything for Black people, but you play the Black card, as Brandon Johnson would always talk, all that West Side talk, right? He rides in on the horse of Blackness, like many Black politicians do, pretty much all of them do. But once they get into office, all of a sudden, they're not with all that Black stuff anymore. They don't want to address you directly anymore, right? So with all that being said, let's get into the actual clip of Brandon Johnson addressing Black America or the Black community in Chicago directly. And then we're going to continue on with the discussion from there, right? So let me pull that up on the screen right now.
Who have needed support, in particular.
Let me run that back. My apologies.
Chicagoans who have been in this city, who have needed support, and particularly our Black families. I know there's been a tremendous burden, particularly on Black Chicago. I am fully aware of that. Y'all know where I live. Y'all know how many schools have been shut down in Austin, mental health clinics. Administration after administration has taken away from Black people, not mine. And I want to make this point very clear as well. We're trying to make sure that migrants are not on floors. So when individuals say that Black folks want what migrants want, it's not true. It's not. Black folks want what they deserve. And to compare the needs of Black people to individuals who are being forced out of their countries because of bad foreign policy, who are living on floors, comparing the conditions in which descendants of slaves have had to endure to migrants who are sleeping on floors, I question how much you actually care and love about Black people and understand their conditions.
Ooh, you heard that? That sounded good, didn't it? That almost sounded believable. That almost sounded believable. Yeah, McFack, he actually said Black. He actually said it, right? Yeah, that's crazy, right? It almost sounds believable. But I don't believe him. I don't believe him at all. And there's a host of reasons for why I don't believe him. But one of the reasons is this: he's contradicted that point that he just made numerous times as it pertains to descendants of American slaves not wanting what he's contradicted the point of the conflation of migrants or so-called migrants coming into the country legally and Black Americans. He has conflated those two issues together on multiple occasions. And now, in that very video, he's saying you can't conflate the two. But he's done that multiple times. And what's crazy and what's interesting is that when he was asked a very direct question concerning Black Chicago's want and need for the city of Chicago to end its sanctuary city status, when he answers that question upon being asked, he starts conflating the struggle in Black America with the struggles of Colombia and Latin America. So he conflates the two issues all the time. But then in what we just heard, he's saying you can't conflate the issues because they don't want the same thing, right? Descendants of slaves need what they want what they deserve, right? Versus trying to keep migrants from, or so-called migrants from, sleeping on floors. Now, I want to pull this poll up for you first before I get into the actual clip of Brandon Johnson responding to the question of Black Chicagoans wanting an end to Chicago sanctuary status. Let me pull up the actual polling information concerning what Black Chicago actually said and how they responded to this. Let me get the actual poll up, and it should be on your screen right now. Now, I'm just going to read one little quick paragraph from here, and then we can move into the actual clip, right? Now, it reads, it's titled, let me give you guys a title. Polls show majority against Chicago's sanctuary city status. That's what the polls show, right? So now let's get into this one paragraph here to read off what it actually says here, right? And it reads as such: whites across Chicago are very much in favor of keeping sanctuary city about double-digit margins. I'm going to read that again. Whites across Chicago are very much in favor of keeping sanctuary city by about double-digit margins. So those are liberal whites, or the white liberal. The white liberals in Chicago are very much in support of maintaining Chicago's sanctuary city status. But it further goes on to read this, and let me zoom in a little bit more so you guys can see better, right? But it further goes on to read and states this: non-whites, Hispanics, Blacks, and others are overwhelmingly in favor of ending sanctuary cities, right? So white liberals want to keep the sanctuary city status. They're in favor of it in Chicago, but all non-white people, particularly Hispanics and majority Black, as we're going to see, are overwhelmingly in favor of ending it, right? Black Chicagoans plus 20% ending sanctuary cities. All right. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, who has defended the city's sanctuary city status, said Friday he hears Black Chicagoans' concerns. He equated that with frustrations with the lack of progress on other issues, right? He doesn't hear the concerns of Black Chicagoans, and we're going to get into that when I play this next videos. And when they say he equates that with the frustration with lack of progress on other issues, what he's talking about is benign neglect policy issues, rising tide lift all ships issues. He's conflating the concerns of Black Chicagoans as it pertains to the current Biden crisis, and he's taking that and he's enlisting benign neglect onto it, in which he then starts talking about the pay wage gap, or I shouldn't say pay wage gap, but he begins to talk about how he's increasing the wages of tip workers, and how we're going to put in place mental health illness facilities, throughout the city of Chicago. But this isn't what Black Chicagoans are talking about as it pertains to the migrant crisis, right? More than 15,000 non-citizens have arrived in Chicago since August of 2022. Governor J.B. Pritzker estimates that the total state and local taxpayer cost is more than $500 million. More than $500 million. Mind you, this is $500 million that they're essentially pulling out of the sky, right? And this $500 million, a good deal of this are coming from actual resources and institutions that the residents of Chicago need. But these things are being shut down so that the money can be diverted to the so-called migrants. Meanwhile, when it comes to Black Chicagoans who always put these people in the office, when you need funds for your programs in your community, they tell you, we don't have it, we don't have it, we don't have it, right? So now let's get into the actual video of Brandon Johnson completely dismissing and talking around Black Chicagoans' desire to end the sanctuary city status within Chicago. Let me play that for you right now.
And it's actually kind of a follow to exactly what you're saying.
All right.
There's a poll that came out this week, polling people across the city along racial lines on whether Chicago should continue being a sanctuary city. Majority of people, voters said no. And the highest among those were among Latinos and Blacks. And one of the reasons why is because of resources. So are you concerned that you are losing, voters on this as this crisis continues, according to...
Thank you for...
I apologize for stopping it. I just want to make sure that our focus is where it needs to be, because you really have to listen to his answer on what he's saying. He was asked a direct, point blank question on, is he hearing Black Chicagoans with their desire to end the sanctuary status within the city of Chicago? You tell me in the live chat and in the comment section if he answers her question.
the question. This is not about votes. This is the problem here. If people think that my job is solely based on how I can get the next vote, we'll get to that in the next 3 years. But I got you. Hold on a second. I just want to make sure that I don't want people to believe that the political decisions that the right wing in this country is making is going to force me to make a decision that will go against our values because I'm thinking about votes. Here's what I'm most concerned about. Our constituents and residents of the city of Chicago. I got it. My bigger concern is the fact that we have an alt-right movement, not just in this country, but around the globe, that continues to disrupt Black and brown economies. Can I just offer up some context real quick?
It's the Republicans' fault. It's the alt-right fault. It's the conservatives' fault. But what's their fault? He's not even addressing the actual question. He's not addressing the actual question, but he's immediately shifting blame to conservatives, Republicans, and the alt-right. Okay. Well, maybe he's going to actually answer the question now. Let me hit the play button and keep going.
There are leaders in many of these countries that come from the same movement and struggle that Jesse and I and Carlos come from. People should look at the story of Her Excellency, the first Black vice president in Colombia, who was not that much different than Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor, who was pushing back against the government when they were coming into villages of which mostly Black Afro-Colombians lived in, disrupting their local economy, causing them to lead movements to actually ultimately transform this government. And then when they got into power, the very forces that they fought are now mad at them and destabilizing their economies to force this massive population shift. And so this is about elevating the consciousness of the entire globe. My bigger concern is to make sure that those families, I'm going to speak directly to Black people, that I made a commitment to invest in the very communities that were disrupted by previous administrations that have closed schools, that have closed mental health clinics,
Yes.
that have shut down public
Yes.
housing.
Yes.
Everything that I've done up to this point, while still handling this crisis, I have not stopped governing to make sure we're raising the wages,
Yes.
passing treatment, not trauma, bringing Chicago home. Apparently, in the city of Chicago, you have a mayor that can walk and chew gum. Thank you all.
Did he answer the question? Did Brandon Johnson answer the question? The reporter asked him a very straight to the point question of the poll that I just read to you all that came out, in which Black Chicagoans were overwhelmingly in favor of ending the sanctuary city status within the city of Chicago. He didn't answer the question. Instead, he proceeded to do what he said you can't do, and that was conflate the two issues, right? Concerning so-called migrants crossing the border illegally and the struggles of Black Americans, not just simply within the city of Chicago, but, throughout the entire country. And this is something that he has done once again consistently, is conflate these issues. What I want to do now is go into another video clip, and I've played this before in the past, but this is a video clip here in which he was on a gentleman's podcast radio show in Chicago. I forget what his name is, but we'll see it in a moment, right? In which the host asked him a very clear-cut, straight-to-the-point question concerning, do you support non-citizen voting? I want you to listen to what his response was when he asked him, do you support non-citizen voting? Here's what Brandon Johnson had to say.
On the right of undocumented immigrants to vote in municipal elections.
So my position is, pretty straightforward. Honestly, it's standard. There are certain rights that come with citizenship, and I believe those rights still should be protected. And so, I do certainly agree that, families who are, seeking refuge or just opportunity here in America, that there should be a pathway to citizenship. Like, I'm not mad at that, right? And I also recognize that, our democracy, for better or worse, was designed to provide like enfranchisement to individuals, of course, who have, the legal presentation of being here. I think that should be maintained. Now, as far as, undocumented families having some say-so in the direction of our public schools, I think that's worth figuring out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're dropping your kids off. I don't believe that families, should be shut out of the ability to have influence. And it's why we fought for democracy, right? Because in Chicago, Maze, when you met.
Let's run that back. Do you see the consistency with which Brandon Johnson continues to conflate the illegal immigration issue with the history of Black Americans in this country? He's saying that the so-called migrant who crossed the border illegally should not be able to shut out in voting in, I believe it's like school board elections in Chicago. And the reason that they shouldn't be shut out in that is because of the history that Black Americans have been through, had the history of Black Americans being shut out from the vote within this country, right? That's what he's saying right now. Let me run that back just a little bit since I interrupted. But as you can see, he's contradicted that point of not conflating the two issues. He's done this on multiple occasions.
I don't believe that families, should be shut out of the ability to have influence. And it's why we fought for democracy, right? Because in Chicago, Maze, when you met me, one of the things that I was pushing for is for an elected representative school board. I organized all over the city of Chicago to bring that into fruition, and then had to lobby in Springfield and challenge some of my own friends who were being skittish about it. So I believe in the expansion of democracy. And in fact, at a time in which democracy is actually being eroded and voting rights are being curtailed and stuffed, we were able to actually expand that. That's the leadership that I bring to the city of Chicago, and I'm prepared to bring that once I'm mayor of Chicago. The disenfranchisement of our people, through keeping us out of the ability to influence our children's education. The fact that we have criminalized poverty, and that has had a real awful stain on black men in particular. Like, we have to continue to find real ways in which we, enfranchise people who have been marginalized by this, really, really jacked up system.
What does that conflation that he's doing have to do with the question that he was being asked concerning, do you support the right for undocumented so-called migrants, illegal immigrants, to be able to vote in local elections? What does that have to do with anything? What is anything that he's talking about concerning the history and struggle of Black Americans in this country, from being, unjustly imprisoned and them not being able to have the right to vote? What does that have to do with anything with the question that was being asked? It has absolutely nothing to do with it. But he's intentionally conflating the two issues, as those within the Democratic Party consistently do, in order to have you generate the feeling within you that, hey, we're all in this together. So yeah, I'm going to support all this stuff because we're all in this together as people of color, minorities, and marginalized groups. But as we all know, as of yet, that has not worked out. In the 60 years that Black Americans have been voting blue, no matter who, religiously, that hasn't worked out yet, right? But this is what they continue to push. And once again, I have to continue to stress, Brandon Johnson does this habitually, conflating the issues. Yet, in the video that I played for you in the beginning, he said that we can't do that, right? So now, before we carry on, and we're going to actually end this pretty soon, it's going to be a quick one. There are 374 of you here in the live stream right now. If you haven't, please hit the like button. Hit the like button if you haven't already. That is extremely important. The most important thing that you can do for me on this channel, if you haven't already. Also, to ensure that you don't miss a live stream and my videos, make sure you join the text notification group, and you can do that by texting tdhiphop to number 33222. That's texting tdhiphop to number 33222. And also, you can join me and follow me on Telegram. The link to my Telegram group is pinned in the live chat right now. It is in the description box below, and it will be pinned in the comment section below after this stream is over. And I also want to thank those who have contributed to today's show. I want to thank you all very much. Cutthroat Nash was the first one to show support to the channel today. He said he dodged that question like Neo dodges bullets. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. He stays dodging questions, doesn't he? He stays dodging questions. Shout out to Bounce Prosperity. Lies, all lies. We are handling this matter, and they are handling this matter in the city of Chicago. I might even do another live stream this evening concerning what's happening in a Munson Park on the west side of Chicago. They are turning up. Blexit the Community. I don't know if you're in here right now, but he actually lives in that neighborhood. And I remember in last week's live stream when I discussed what was happening in the Munson Park, he said that they don't play. He said in the Munson Park, they don't play. Them Black folks are going to turn up. And that's what's happening over there. But they're turning up in the right ways, And they're causing a lot of trouble right now for Brandon Johnson. And they have so far have a temporary hold on Brandon Johnson being able to move the migrant shelter into their park and stripping them of the recreational facility that they have, right? So shout out to everybody in the Munson Park on the west side of Chicago, man. They are a great shining example of just how you protect your community, right? And I want to see that I want to see them keep going and be successful in that. And also, shout out to Darkroom Media 007, who said he is knifing Black folks in the back and telling them it's surgery. Thanks for covering this, TD. No problem. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's knifing you in the back and telling you that I'm just performing a surgery on you. And that's why I put in the thumbnail of this video, this man will destroy Black Chicago. Because for him to dismiss the concerns of Black Chicago to the way that he does, and within the city, they've been very direct and to the point with what they need, what they want, and what they don't want. But he doesn't address any of it yet continues to talk around it. That is indeed an attempt at destroying the community. Because if the people are telling you what they want and you're intentionally making it a point to not hear them, then you're complicit in the destruction and the eradication of the community as things move forward with this Biden crisis that's going on, right? So let's get into this last clip right now. And I played this all for you before. I think I played this in the last live stream, but it's a great clip to play to round this all out. Because in this clip, he's going to be asked a very direct question concerning whether or not he hears the concerns of Black Chicago, right? And the concerns of Black Chicago is that of having their very critical resources in their community stripped to give to the so-called migrants, right? Resources that they desperately need, resources that need reinvestment into, are being taken away from them. Black Chicago saying, stop doing that. Give us back our resources, reinvest in them so that we can build them up. And on top of that, end this sanctuary city nonsense. End it. Now you tell me if he answers, if he's actually addressing Black Chicago and their concerns. The question is, are you hearing Black Chicago? You let me know if he's actually hearing Black Chicago based off of what they're actually saying and talking about, or if he's just talking around the topic of the Biden crisis in the city once again. So let's get into this clip to round this out.
Dog anymore, don't worry. My question is about some remarks that the governor made yesterday. He alluded to the fact that they might not be providing more funding to the city for migrant aid, help with housing. Have you had that conversation with him and talked about that specifically?
Well, what we've talked about, first of all, I'm grateful for the work that that has been done. And again, the people of Chicago, we're being asked and quite frankly tasked with carrying the vast majority of this responsibility. I know that the leadership in the state of Illinois recognizes the importance of Chicago. And you know, the only thing that I can do is do my part. And I'm asking other folks to do their part. And as I've said multiple times, that the weight and the brunt of this sacrifice has been on Chicagoans. And I'm hearing loud and clear from our Black residents in particular that they have high expectations, as they should. It's why making sure that we pass one fair wage was a priority of mine, because the vast majority of individuals are Black and brown women who are doing the work. It's why we're going to bring Chicago home. The vast majority of people.
He said Black Chicago, I'm hearing you, and then immediately pivots to Black and brown. Shout out to the benign neglect policy being in full effect.
Who are unhoused in this city are Black people. You know, it's why we're committed to passing treatment, not trauma, and opening our mental health centers and making sure that we have an alternative response to mental health crises, because those who are overwhelmingly impacted by brutality are Black people. And there's still more work to be done. You know, so I'm going to continue to do my part. I've expressed that the state has to do more. I've expressed that the federal government has to do more. And that's just where we are today. Thank you.
Based on all the coverage that I have done on what's going on in the city of Chicago concerning the Biden crisis, which is the so-called migrant crisis, but it's the Biden crisis because it was created deliberately by Joe Biden. Based off all the coverage that I've done on what's happening in Chicago and everything that we've actually heard from Black Chicago, did he address any of their concerns in what he just said? Or did he immediately just pivot to rising tide lift all ships policies for people of color, minorities, and marginalized groups, but attempt to conflate that as if with Black issues, as if he's talking to Black people, yet immediately within the first sentence out of his mouth, as it pertains to some sort of solution, he starts talking about Black and brown, right? Based off of everything that we've covered so far in Chicago, did he actually answer the question of him hearing Black Chicago? That's my question to you, for you all in the live chat and as well as in the live stream, right? But it's a rhetorical question. We all know the answer to that question is no. He's not answering to any of that. And if he's not answering to any of that, these concerns that are very concrete and clear and direct, then he is indeed complicit in the destruction and the erasure of the Black community in Chicago. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he's playing games with you. And this is why in the city, you all have to keep turning up. And when I say turn up, I mean in the right way, as you've been doing in the town hall meetings. On the South Side, they hit Brandon Johnson with a lawsuit that has put I believe it's called the South Shore High School on hold. They haven't been able to turn that into a migrant center. On the West Side, in a Munson Park, they hit Brandon Johnson with a lawsuit over there so that he wasn't able, as of right now, they're temporarily unable to transform a Munson Park into a migrant center. They're doing everything the right way, and I love to see it. And this is how it has to be done, right? And we have to keep covering this stuff so people know what's going on, right? And shout out to Cutthroat Nash for coming through once again. He asked a very good question. I want to speak on this briefly in closing because I've been thinking this to myself as well, and I just haven't known, I haven't had a way to bring this up in conversation that's relevant to the streams, right? But Cutthroat Nash is asking this question, and I'm just as confused as he is. Cutthroat Nash says, why are the Black people in Chicago pushing back and the ones in New York City aren't? I don't understand that for the life of me. This is something that that just dawned on me. The question you asked, that just dawned on me about maybe sometime last week. With all this coverage that I've been doing, we see Eric Adams turning up, but I don't see any videos of the people of New York City turning up. I don't see any of this. I don't see any of them fighting for their communities and their neighborhoods the way Black Chicagoans are. And it's not a diss towards our brothers and sisters in New York City. I just don't understand why I haven't seen it. I don't get it. I don't understand. Right. And that's just, it's a great question. And I don't have an answer to that. Maybe, our brothers and sisters in New York, they can enlighten us in the live chat. Enlighten me in the comment section after this video is over, and I will most definitely be checking the comment section to see what you guys have to say, all the Black New Yorkers. What's going on? What's going on? I don't see you guys applying that pressure in New York the way that they're doing in Chicago. And I'll say this also in closing. Could you imagine the energy of Black Chicago with Eric Adams as the mayor, the way he's been pushing and going hard, concerning, putting an end to this Biden crisis in New York City? That would be crazy. That would be nuts. The energy of Black Chicago with a mayor like Brandon Johnson attacking this so-called Biden crisis, that would be insane to see. But unfortunately, for Chicago, they don't have Mayor Eric Adams, who, at least as it pertains to what's going on in New York concerning the Biden crisis, he's been doing his thing with that. Now, as it pertains to Black people in general and what he's done for Black New York, that's nothing. He's towing the Democratic Party line of not doing anything directly for Black Americans, right? But as it pertains to the Biden crisis, he's been on it. He's been on it. And like I said, in closing, that would be actually something very interesting to see, if Eric Adams had the kind of support from Black New York that Black Chicagoans would give him towards fighting this Biden crisis. That would be interesting to see, but we're not going to see that because unfortunately Chicago has a non-playable character, an NPC by the name of Brandon Johnson, right? So with all that being said, that does it for today's video. I want to thank you all for joining me today, and thank you all for the last couple people who have showed support to today's stream. It is deeply appreciated, deeply, deeply appreciated. Please hit the like button. There are 492 of you in here right now. If you haven't hit the like button, don't just listen to me say it. Please hit the like button. And also shout out to Sharon Compton for the super sticker. Thank you very much. Shout out to Mr. Inglewood. Mr. Inglewood said, because Chicago is a segregated, concentrated community. He is 100% correct on that. And Cutthroat Nash stated, I'm from New York and it's because they lack a brain. Oh, come on, Cutthroat. Don't do Black New York like that. Don't. Come on now. Don't say it's because they lack a brain. He said, I'm from New York and they lack a brain. Oh, come on, cutthroat. But anyways, that does it for today's show. I want to thank you all for joining me today. And very quickly, before you all leave, because I know y'all trying to leave quick, outside of hitting the like button, you are going to get redirected to Just Talking with TD and Rob. I will be going live on my second channel, Just Talking with TD and Rob, in about 25 minutes, we'll say, right? I'll be going live over there in 25 minutes, and you will be directed straight to that channel if you just hang on once this live stream is over. And for those of you who are watching this stream past 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on this Thursday, you won't be redirected because that live stream will be on members only. But once the live stream is over, but you can still go subscribe to the channel anyways. And in subscribing to the channel, you will get clips that we upload on that channel as well. And here is what today's episode of Just Talking will be about. Right? Let me pull today's episode up, and I'm looking forward to this one. As you can see, these ninjas going to jail, right? And Jada needs to go to jail too. That's what we're talking about over there today. Diddy going to jail, Envy going to jail, everybody going to jail. All right. We have a lot of fun on that channel, man. So like I said, stick around to the very end of this live stream and you will be redirected to that stream that we will be getting started over there in about 25 minutes. So I'll catch you on Just Talking with TD and Rob. Peace.